Oh yeah. Alright folks, Shadow Gauge here. Today I am going to be doing a tutorial on building a drum template. Now I just opened up my drum template. You know, this is just basic, nothing done to it. But I'm going to walk through how it's set up. Because right now, you know, it's simple. I have my keyboard here and I have a few different settings for the drums. Right now they're pretty loud. You know, I'm sure that's probably louder than they need to be. But I think this will completely illustrate a point I'm making as well. In that audio is relative, and this is why you shouldn't clip. Because right now, obviously, you look in the bottom, I'm clipping here. Okay, so let me explain my setup. Now, first thing is my control groups. So my main input that's basically taking input from my mini Eqing here, it's going into one channel and no other channels. So basically my main input comes into this main drum in, and then from here it is pulled by other ones, and I'm always using in. I'm never on auto. Okay, so just for the record. So anyway, if we come in here, you know, there's my perk, and if you notice, I am using drum synths from Massive. You know, I've got basically a bunch of programs here that, you know, just different percussive elements, all digital. You know, basically, you know, a lot of times if I'm going to use a sample, I'm going to use a sample I recorded. I'm not going to use a sample from, I mean, like, I go over here and, I mean, I've got, crap, dude. I've got thousands of samples. You know, the majority of these are samples on my Cymatic, all these drums right here. You know, you go down, you know, a lot of the music radar. This is almost all drums, you know. And I mean, I'll pull them out for like here and there just to like make some top loops or to spice something up. But for the most part, almost all my drums, I do my own synthesis, and I'm basically going to walk through my whole process here. So when I'm starting to build the template, and this is all I want for the template because I don't always necessarily know how I'm going to go on the track. You know, sometimes I'm just kind of screwing around making samples and loops. Sometimes I'm actually, you know, trying to build a drum template. And when I say drum template, because this is technically a drum template, but I make my tracks out of drum templates too. So I'll basically, you know, take a layout that's a popular layout that you hear in electronic music, it's like a popular arrangement, and I will do my arrangement in drums, and then I will keep that, basically I'll use that to write my track to. And that saves a lot of time, because then I just basically, you know, have one setup for my arrangements, and you know, when I'm not feeling very productive or very inspired, I can just make drums, because no matter what, you need to make drums, and you know, it's not always the most creative process. So, but you always want your drums to sound good. So the whole point on this, okay, so I have my main channel, which just has utility on it. My bass is mono on this, and I'm drawing the width back a little bit, just to bring it in. My left and my right channel are separated, but there's a MIDI pitch. There's a one note pitch difference on the MIDI, so on the left to right channel. And what that does is that gives me a pure stereo signal that is it's basically wide and it sounds good. The transient's on, and there's, you know, I basically I've ran into a lot of issues when you're trying to widen your drums. You're not going to be able to get, it's either going to mess up the transients or yada yada yada. It's not going to sound good. It's going to clash. You know, this is close enough without being the same that it's not going to do that. You know, and it's the left and the right are just kind of equal, and there's my kick. Now I also have my kick with my hi-hat and my hi-hat solo, and that's all being played on my keyboard. Now if you notice, my kicks are taking input from my kick control group. My kick control group is taking input from my main drums. Okay, that is how you separate your MIDI so that I can have each one of my keys perform a different function. You know, I have like my whatever here. I can also set up arpeggiators on certain keys and do things like that. You know, if I want to play live and want it to look like I'm actually doing something. Shh, shh, shh. It's not smoke and mirrors, I swear. It is 90% smoke. You know, I remember once you know, so basically Sasha was like, you know, trying to be like, if you want to be a good DJ, you know, just have all your records, just use dub plates, have them all preset so they're all perfectly matched up. You know, you want your you know, you want them all to be harmonically mixed and all that, and you know, you just do that in the studio, and that way your sets are always perfect. And you know, if you want to ever wonder why Sasha sounded so good on stage, wait, I didn't say that out loud. I should now. But you know, I mean, that's general. If you're gonna be playing live, you know, I mean, it's good to make mistakes, but at the same time, sometimes you just want to be perfect on stage. I personally like being perfect, but you know, it's from playing Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. You know, you always have to go for those perfects. Anyway, so to separate my drums, I'm actually using a scale. Now, with my kick, you notice I mean I'm on the white keys because my keyboard is inverted. But anyway, so that's basic, you know, my basic drum setup, you know, and you notice my kick's on 2. So if you go into my snare is on 3 because a lot of times I'm rolling off the kick onto the snare to get that like pocket groove kind of thing going. And then if we come down to hi-hats, we notice the hi-hat is going to be on opposite here. So, you know, that way this one is by itself, and this is the one with the kick, this is the one with the snare, and then, you know, dry kick, dry snare, and of course dry hi-hat. So that's essentially how I do my setup. You can set that up however you want, but you know, just you can overlap any drums using the scale. You obviously have multiple options here and I mean, you can even set it up so that you have different instruments, like an instrument rack that's doing nothing but handling MIDI. If you want to go through the effort of making every single note do something different, you can do that. I'm not going to do that because I don't have that many fingers, to be honest with you. I can't play more than like 5 things at a time. So why should I even try? You know, plus that's going to sound really muddy and dirty anyway. So you don't want to do that. Anyway, and of course, you know, percussion here, and you know, it's all basic. Now, the next thing I'm going to want to do, okay, because here's my setup. So now I can basically do anyway, however the fuck I do it. But today I'm not even going to worry about that. I'm actually going to come in here, find myself a drum loop in my samples. Let's change this to 174. And yep, some drum and bass. I'll definitely want to use some drum and bass. We could go with some beats here. Maybe a few samples. I guess a sample like that. I like that break. Okay, perfect. I'm just gonna drag this onto one of these, and it's gonna ask, and I'm gonna say drums, and I'm gonna let it convert that, and then I'm gonna take down here, and then I'm gonna double click on it and find out where my keyboard is actually hitting right now. So let's figure out what octave I'm in. I'm in the 2nd octave and 3rd octave. All right, so that is the kick. Let's see, which one do we suppose? We suppose this is probably the kick. So I'm just going to click on the key to highlight the entire row, hold down shift and hit up. boom, boom, and put that on the C2. That way, yes. That way, yes. Because why not yes? Why not no? Turn that off for now. So that way it should just... Okay. And of course, I don't want this to this. I want to go ahead and put that right there. I'm going to take this and put it right there. And that should give me... Alright, sounds good. I've got a drum beat there. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and loop this for the moment, and we're going to drag this over here. And I am now going to, let's see here. What is the next step in this process? I mean, that's basically my drums there. But now I'm going to basically start getting them set up for the mix down process. Because, you know, like, if you watch one of my other tutorials, like I say, you always want to start with the end in mind. So how do I mix down my drums properly? How do I get them set? Well, one of the things that, you know, it's kind of a toss-up here. Because your drums are going to want to sit with your sub. So you're going to need things separately. So anytime you're doing this, I will usually just start right here. Because I don't know what my sub's going to be. But, you know, no point in just, you know, going, okay, I'm going to make my drums now. Okay, now I got to make my sub. Oh, crap. Now I got to go and I got to separate out my kick from my snare, yada, yada, blah, 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 blah. It's all bullshit anyway. But you do have to do that. You really do. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in here. I'm going to highlight my kick and my snare. And I am going to hit Control G and group those. And that way my kick and my snare... Oh, Lordy. That way my kick and my snare are basically together. Now, on each one of these, I'm going to want to limit the group. But I want to limit it after a certain point. Now, this is one of those times where, you know, there's multiple ways to do this. Not to say one's better than the other, and there's no perfect way of doing it. But I tend to find that basically putting them each, limiting each channel on its own just to get that ceiling set correctly is just, it's just the easiest way. You know, you're gonna end up doing it anyway. And if I do it now and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, boom, drop 12 on there, boom, drop 12 on there. And now if I'm, oh, what did I do here? Something happened. Oh. There, that's why. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. It's like, why is this not working? So now that should work. Okay, cool. But now I've got a delay there. I hate that. Okay. It's because auto's on and it's not in, and that's, you know, otherwise it'd be straight through. No latency, which is kind of nice. Not many people know about that. Anyway, so that's spot together. Now, for the hi-hats, I'm going to go ahead and drop that on there, but the hi-hats are also going to get the rule 300. So if, you know, I made sure not, I'm not including it in my description, so hopefully these don't get pulled. Well, last time when I put the rule 300 in my description, I got a copyright infringement thing, and so it was no good. They was like, oh, I figure I could da 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 da. Wow, no, they're pretty hardcore over some of their information. I'll tell you what. Okay, what was I doing? I got totally lost here. Oh yes. Blue and rule 300. We are going to drop that before the Dropping that before the limiter. There we go. All right, and let's go ahead and see where this is at. That one's good, and let's see where our kick is at. Kick is kind of heavy there. Okay, so kick set. And you know, if you notice, it's probably, let's see, I'm just curious here. Scroll down because I'm curious for the audio. Yep, see, it's right where it was at. It hasn't moved, even though I just put limiters on all this stuff. The audio level is the exact same as it was, but I literally just basically took out most of the excess audio because it doesn't matter. But if you notice, I am no longer clipping in the bottom, even though I'm clipping everywhere else, which is perfect. Yay! Yay for me. It's done right. It took me so long to figure out this like stupid little just subtle nuances here. It's like, why is it sometimes get louder and sometimes get quieter? Oh, let's see. Let's see where this one. I'm going to go ahead and drop the rule of 300 on here. And because this one's just kind of a weird, awkward one, I think I am just going to go 18. So yes. Wow, that's hardcore. There. Okay, sorry. Playing around there. Just like, stop fucking around, man. Get to the damn tutorial. Why are you fucking stalling? Like, are you sure I'm stalling? I might not be. I might be Mussolini. Hey. Communist jokes? No. I have some fascist jokes. I don't know. Who knows? I'm so screwed up. I'm from America. I don't know what the hell politics are. Uh-oh. Well, crap. There goes my phone. Okay, well, let's pause this real quick while I deal with my stupid phone. Okay, that is dealt with. Oh, now I'm making even more noise. Bumping shit. Bumping my crisp. Alright. Yay. Okay, so now that that's there, I want to make the most out of this section. So I am now going to grab this, and I am going to group it all the way down to, do I want to do it to perk? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it to perk. So I'm going to go from perk up to the very top, and I'm going to go ahead and group it all. And then I'm going to call this drums, because it literally is all my drums. And okay, so for this, I am actually going to use my voltmeter here, my VMU. No, where am I at? Okay, so if you don't have this plugin, I do recommend it. It is TV Audio's MV Meter 2. I'm just going to put this on my main track here. And first thing I'm going to do is come in here to my audio effects, go up to drive and color, and dump on a drum bus. And set a G. I'm gonna go ahead, bring this down to F here. That should be up the boom. I'm gonna bring the decay down. that's kind of muddy. But, you know, I guess I could probably fix that here. But one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this right here, and I am actually going to edit it to one of my knobs because I need to be able to adjust this while I am looking at my MV meter. So we're going to go ahead and just hit play, and then I'm going to pull up my MV meter and I'm going to dial this in. All right. And there we go. We have dialed in our drums. It is perfectly set. And I mean, you know, if you look at how much I'm shaving off here, I mean, I'm shaving off 6 decibels there and another 3 decibels on each channel. Okay. So, I mean, that's pretty extensive, and, you know, it's not changing. It's basically just changing the dynamics. I have a lot more dynamics. I have a lot of room I can deal with. So I'm not going to be, you know, worrying about are my drums going to hit. Yeah, my drums are going to fucking hit, dude. Like, all day long. Okay, so now that we've got that done, okay, we need to start worrying about, okay, now what are some of the subtle nuances that people notice in the drums? Well, number one, if everything is hitting at the same time, that transient that's a really harsh transient. You know what I'm saying? That's like hardcore. We don't want that. So what we're going to do to alleviate that problem, I have these little, these are some of my little drop and chops here. I go into MIDI effect and I go down here to note links. Where's my, oh wait, sorry. And I go into MIDI effects rack. I have this Humanize. Okay, what I'm going to do is I am going to drop one of these on all of my control channels. Well, all my drum control, not my main control. So, oh, well, let me do this correctly here. Count, and then there, and then there. And yeah, that's perfect. And then I need to open this one up on all these. So I'm just going to go through and, you know, open those all up. I'll open these up. Right now it's at 1/24. I'm just going to go ahead and do 1/16. And this is my length afterwards. So essentially, I can either make it so that they trigger all the way through on the first shot, or they cut off after a 16th note. I'm going for the cutoff after a 16th note just because, you know, it's drum and bass. I don't want transients on my shit. You kidding me? Like come on. Nobody wants transients. Psh, sorry, I'm totally saying transients. And that's not even what I mean. I'm using words that don't make sense in the context I'm using them in. Okay, so now that I have that, I also have another part of this, and that is my okay. I'm going to go into modulators, and I'm going to just go to LFO. And oh, wait, I totally messed that up. Okay, sorry, my bag, my bag. I'm going to open this up, and then I have here in others, I have my Humanized Lfo. This LFO is set up specifically for humanizing, and I'm going to take this now to explain what my humanizer does. Okay, I have a MIDI rack here with two note links. The first one is note on, the second one is note off. So essentially it's going to trap the note when it's hit, and it's going to adjust the time very slightly. So I have it set on 1/64th note, and then I have it turned all the way down to 1%. And then on my LFO, it only goes between 0 and 3%. And I have a, huge, fairly decent depth to it. The rate is, I can adjust the rate so that it changes less often, but I've kind of found that about a kilohertz is pretty much where you want to be. So essentially, I'm just going to map this to my gate percentage, and that's just going to give me a very slight adjustment on when everything is hitting. So that way, it's not all hitting at the same time. I better put one on here too. So I'm going to my MIDI effects, Humanize, audio effects, Humanized Lfo. Let's go ahead, turn this to 1/16th. Normally I put it on 1/24th if I'm like doing house or like slower stuff. With drum and bass, I'm setting it to 1/16th. Because it's sped up, and that's still technically slower because anyway, doesn't matter. So I'm gonna go ahead and map that to the gate and plat out. There we go. Now I need to do that with my hi-hats, or I've already done that with my hi-hats, so now I need to do that with this. I'm gonna drop the LFO here, and then I'm gonna click map, and then I'm gonna click gate, and maybe even I'm gonna adjust this up just slightly. And then with this one, I'm going to go ahead, drop this on, and I'm going to take this down just slightly and map it to there. So that way, it's not always changing on the same. The algorithms are very subtly different. And yeah, that way, now I have it. Now it's just humanized, so it's not always going to always all of the transients are never going to be on the same time. They're always going to be slightly adjusted from each other, not really enough to make it noticeably off, or like in the hole. Like, it's just, you don't want the transients overlapping is all it is. So now if I play the drum beat, one of them I have turned off, probably because I can tell it's not working correctly. Oh, it's my snare. All right. Cool. And that's our humanized version. So, basically, yeah, that's the bread and butter of this drum template. After this is all set up, it's probably a good idea. I'm going to save this as my drum template extra now, just because, you know, things are dialed in. But I don't necessarily want to do that yet, because few things here that we can do. Now, you know, as much as this is popping, it could be popping more. And in order to make it pop more, we are going to do a couple of things here. First thing we're going to do is we are going to gate everything. If you watched my other video, my other tutorial, like I said, just gate everything. Everything's gated, you know. I'm going to make sure I'm gating on the main channels, though. So, you know, where it says snare, I'm going to be gating. Where it says hi-hat, I'm going to be gating. And my percussions, I'm going to be gating. Okay, so, and notice my gates are all set. Minimum floor, it's not going to make a huge difference. So, there we go. And now, that we all gated, and we're shaving off just, you know, like I said, small slivers here. We're just shaving off a little bit of audio, not much, just a little. I'm gonna go in here. I don't need this anymore, so I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of it. You know, I just threw that on to basically get my audio straight. Once my audio was leveled and I was, you know, my drums are where they should be sitting, you know, everything's good. I don't necessarily have to worry about dialing in my drums after this point. But I definitely need to worry about my EQing. So how do I EQ my drums? Well, first thing we're going to do is we are just going to basically, there's a couple ways we can do this. So I basically have my kick EQ, my percussion EQ, and my snare EQ. So I'm going to start with the kick EQ, and I am going to drop it on my kick channel. Now, I'm always going to want to go into a dynamic from this. So, even though my 12 is here, I'm going to go ahead and put it at the end. Okay? And that's basically my edits on the kick. Okay? A lot of times, too, you're going to want to go from, you know, you're going to want to go from wide to narrow, basically wide sweeps to narrow sweeps. And I'm not worrying about the wide sweeps. I'm already kind of assuming that anything on the wide sweeps, the shelving, is all being done. If I pull in massive here and I go up, and, you know, if I'm going to do any shelving, I'm going to do my shelving here. I'm not going to shelve it in there. So I'm assuming it's, you know, shelving, going into the, you know, get everything mixed together, put back together. So this is acting as a gain function. And then we have a filter function into a dynamic function. And that's pretty much the same thing that is happening in the software. So we're just basically mimicking the chain here. That's all we're doing. And now when my so there, kicks, you know, a little snap here now. I'm gonna go ahead and with my snare, drop on my snare EQ, and we notice, oh, so for my kick EQ, I guess I'll go over this. I'm basically upping the 110 range. If I were to do this correctly, and save myself time, I should probably group this with the gate, and then I could basically, because, you know, I might slide this down to 100 or 95 at the lowest, and I might go up to 120. But 110's pretty much dead zone, is basically where you want to be most of the time. This dip is at 500. This is going to just clear up some of that range, make it a little less muddy. My Qs are set at 3. Sometimes I just probably want to set them at 1. you know, but for now I'm just setting them at 3. Just, you know, I want them a little sharp. I want there to be some, I want it to have some sharpness to it, basically. You know, the sharper the cue, the more effect it's going to have in that range. So that 110 range is basically, you know, it's getting cut decent. So either way, that's basically the explanation there. So shelving into a dynamic function. So I'm using the gate as a dynamic function in this. And I could also use, I mean, I could just as easily not use a gate here. I could use compression. I can use a lot of things here. I'm choosing to use a gate because I've had the best success with a gate. But yeah, you know, it's either way, gain into a dynamic function, you know, filter into a dynamic function, into gain into dynamic function, you know, whatever, filter, dynamic function, yada yada. Okay. It's like, why is he like beating that in? It's like, cause man, it was beating into my head. I'm beating it into your head. Okay. So, um, anyway, so if I go into the snare, my snare setup is at about 250 here. I'm sure. See, it's at 500. So, where's my 3K? Oh, it's the 5, isn't it? Yep. See, it's set at 250. So essentially, that's a harmonic range. So you may want to be cutting that range out of some of your low end synths, just because it can get flooded really easily, and you really don't need much there. By the same token, I am also cutting out the 500 here, and I'm doing it basically it's up at about 3K, and that's going to give it a little extra snappiness to it. Plus, I'm going to pull that area down in the long run. So anytime I'm basically doing specific types of compression to like make my drums stick out, I'm going to be lowering the 3K range on whenever the drums are hitting. You know, and that's basically, you'll see what I'm talking about. And probably not this tutorial, probably another one. Um, anyway, so for the hi-hats, um, I'm sure my hi-hat is probably already set. So I'm just going to swap it out for my hi-hat EQ. And yeah, so there's my hi-hat. It's a little more chopped. So now, but I need to put this right there. And yeah. Okay, so if we do that, I'm just going to turn these off real quick. So, oh, shoot, there we go. Get an idea of how it sounds with and without. So, you know, doesn't sound bad. But if I come in and turn these on, a little bit snappier. So, there we have our drum EQ. Everything's going in. Got our drum bus set up, and that's going out to here. And yeah, so far, so good. That is pretty much the end of the drum bus tutorial, the drum template tutorial. And you know, if from here I'm going to basically be adding a sub, and then I'm going to be basically, so for the next tutorial is going to be setting up your sub and getting your sub and your drums positioned correctly so that you're not clashing. And then of course when you're doing your sub, that's going to have to carry over to the rest of your mix. So yeah, and of course, you know, if you watch the first part of the tutorial, you kind of have an idea of where this is going. I'm going to go ahead and save this as a template. So save live set as template, and I am going to call this my EQ'd drum template. EQD drum template. There we go. So that way, you know, if I'm starting from scratch, yeah, it saved it, and then yeah, I hate that it does that. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's basically that. Now, if I want to open it up and I already have my EQ set, then hey, um, and I guess one last thing I'm gonna go over here real quick is I'm just gonna talk about the my gains. I said this in the first video. I'll say it again. Like, they are always set between -6 and 4 decibels. So you don't go higher than 4 decibels. You don't go lower than -6, and that's pretty much just that's just the standard. I probably am gonna cut the tops too, but you know, I don't necessarily have to. I can do that later on. Anyway, that is all for this, folks. Go ahead, drop a subscribe, drop a like if you like and enjoyed this. If you find it, you know, absolutely atrocious and, you know, want me to shut the F up, then hey, you know, just go ahead and put that. Just, you know, say something, do something. Much love, folks. Shadow Gauge is out.